I know her computer, so I want to do my first slide. Okay, so she's here.
A few minutes
to
just load the PowerPoint up for you.
So we had to reload and load and you understand all that.
Govinda Priya, I'm going to just load up the slides and
Govinda Priya. So this is Radhakanta.
Yes.
And she's going to load the slides so that I can put this PowerPoint. Okay.
I have made you the co-host so you can share your screen.
Right, let's do that, please.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move the mouse a little bit. Okay. Okay, so as I said, this is in memory of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I'm just a little curious if everyone can see the whole screen. Govinda Priya?
Yes.
You can see the screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay, great. So we're speaking today about listening with our hearts, and what I have come to learn in my short journey of being a devotee is that listening actually is a spiritual practice. And why do I say that it's a spiritual practice? Because as I shared earlier, it's integral to bhakti. Bhakti is our path of developing relationships. And relationships means having to have association or connection with another person, whether that person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Personality of Godhead associates, or the Personality of Godhead devotees, or the parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that may not understand yet that they are in connection with God or with Krishna. So listening is integral for us to develop relationships with all of these personalities. And so I say that for me, I am learning more about listening as I become more aware of the path of bhakti. Means as I have more knowledge, as I'm able to have more experience in the path of bhakti, then I become a little bit more aware of the importance of listening. Because listening is communion with the soul. You know, it's like soul to soul conversation. And that soul to soul conversations, those conversations, of course, they get magnified when we are able to do them with us as a spiritual practice. So for example, in bhakti, we learned that one of the, well, there are 9 ways, of course. However, the first 2 ways that we can develop a relationship with the Lord, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is through hearing and chanting. Now, it's interesting to me that in both of those processes, it requires listening, both. So when we talk about connecting with God, if we're talking about connecting with Krishna, and I'm going to go back and forth because a lot of times that these classes that I do, they go to personalities or people that are not yet on the path of bhakti. So for those that have been on the path of bhakti for many years and are on the path of bhakti, please forgive me. These classes, they go all over the world, and there are many people that are not yet practicing the path of bhakti. So I intermingle with different words. So in order to develop this relationship with God, as I was sharing, we practice calling God's name, and that's a relationship within itself, is the calling God's name. And one of the prerequisites for calling on God's name is to be able to listen to the name. As we call on the name, we listen to the name. And I'm going to share about some of the teachers that I've had that's helped me in that listening process. One is Burjan Prabhu and his beautiful, beautiful wife, Jagatrini Mataji, who, and Sachinanda Maharaj, I'll put them all together. They have been instrumental in helping me to understand why it is important to listen to the holy names of the Lord. And so, for many years, I've been going on retreats in Govardhan with these personalities. And something that I always take away from these retreats about listening is, to be able to sit with the Lord's holy names in a still and quiet place as much as I possibly can, and listen to the sound of the name, listen to the sounds of the names. So listening, as I said, is such an integral part of our process. And also when we hear about reading or hearing about the Lord, glorifying God, glorifying Krishna, we know that to glorify Krishna in terms of reading about him, that we need to listen. We need to listen to these pastimes of his and Srimati Radharani, who we'll talk about a little bit, in order to pass this on to others, right? In order to share this with others, first we need to listen, and we do need to make that connection ourselves. And then of course, we know that in order to connect with the people are in our spiritual paradigm, whether they are Christians or Muslims or Vaishnav devotees, Vaishnavis, it's very important to make connection with them through listening. That's one of the ways that soul to soul communicate, by listening to another person. And similarly, if we are teachers or educators and we're attempting to bring people closer to the different paths that we may follow, whatever that path may be, it's important to listen to those persons to be able to understand what's going on for them. So in every arena of life, whatever it is that we do, whatever relationship that we develop in life, whatever role we play in life, it's an important criteria to learn this aspect, or this very amazing principle of listening. And we'll talk about that in terms of our path. I just want to briefly introduce why I chose this topic of listening with our hearts. So in my experience of, as I said, of first being a citizen in this world, I realized that I'm not of this world. However, I do live in this world. And so being a citizen in this world, I have come to understand that it's important, it's so important for me in whatever role I play in this world, whether it's being a mother, whether it's being a counselor, whether it's being a mediator, whatever role, whatever the designated role may be, a teacher, educator. I have come to learn, I've come to understand that for me, it's really important that I learn how to listen. Really important, because what's most important for me in any of those roles is to make connection with those persons, right? Even on my path, on my spiritual path, I am anxious to make connection with the Supreme Lord, which is why I chant, and which is why I hear the glories of the Lord, which is why I'll do the practices that I do, because I want to connect, with the source, with where all this comes from. And so listening, this path of listening for me is, as I said, it's integral to this path of bhakti. In other words, for us to have a relationship with God, for us to have a relationship with Krishna, it's important to learn how to listen. So I want to now share a little bit about listening. How do we understand this listening? What is this about the listening? So we're going to be listening. We're going to share a little bit about the difference between hearing and listening. So hearing and listening. So I don't know if you can see the slide. So hearing, when we hear Usually we're hearing a sound, some sound. We're receiving some sound vibration. It's not hearing isn't really a skill, because, you know, we're always hearing, like even as I'm sharing right now, I'm hearing. I live in the farm and I live in the, you know, the woods a little bit. So I actually can hear the trees blowing. I can hear, there's some birds outside. I can hear different sounds. And so we're constantly hearing, unless of course we have some, you know, difficulties with hearing. And of course, if we're deaf or something like that, then we wouldn't be hearing. And hearing is like one of our five senses. That sense is when we're hearing, we're just hearing. We're just hearing a sound. We're just it doesn't really require a connection, right? I don't need to concentrate about the sound of the trees. I can just hear it. I just hear it. Now, of course, I could go deeper with the sound of the trees. And if I choose to go deeper with the sound of the trees, then that would be listening. So a little different than hearing. Now I'm going to share. So on this slide, you'll see that the person that is hearing, the gentleman that is hearing, he's hearing in a certain way, means he's thinking about himself, right? He's not thinking about the other person. And when we listen, when we listen to another person, we listen to what they're saying. We walk in their shoe. We try as much as we can to empty ourselves of whatever might be going on for us in order to walk into that other person's sacred space to hear what might be happening for them. And so this difference is so important. Now, we may say, well, Srila Prabhupada, he always used that word hearing. You know, everything that we hear in when we read the scriptures, you say, we hear the scriptures, we hear the holy name, we hear the sound. And that's, yes. So we want to explore a little bit about words, because when we hear this word hear, it's important to look in terms of the time and in terms of the root of a word. And so this word here, it's predominantly used to explain something external. In other words, if you look in the dictionary or if you look in the origin of the word, you'll see that, you know, it's an external activity, whereas listening is explained more as an internal activity. And so when Srila Prabhupada speaks to us about hearing, he's automatically understanding that we know that to hear, you got to listen, right? To hear the sound vibration of the holy names, we got to really listen. To hear the meaning or what is being given to us in the scriptures, we really got to go deeper and listen, which is why now we have so many different studies about how to hear the sastras, right? You know, we have so now we can go anywhere and sit and listen to learn about Krishna. So these two, this is a basic distinction between the two. Srila Prabhupada, when he used the word hear, he's actually also meaning that we listen. And simultaneously, when we hear the word listen, it means to hear. But just in terms of the world as we know it today, you know, we've gone from a very ancient times of when people could hear, could listen, and they could retain what they listened to without any external things to help them to listen. And as we have moved we've moved more into, we moved from an industrial age to a modern age to now a postmodern age. Those listening propensities have been seriously minimized. So when we think about the sages, or we think about the great devotees, whether they were in women body or male bodies, in traditional times when they listened, they didn't have the kind of distractions that we have, that has been created since the industrial times and even pre-industrial times. And so some of the distractions that is really minimizing our listening propensity, the listening muscles that we have, is the distractions of technology. And technology kind of makes things so easy. So we don't need to use those muscles that are there in our brain, you know, to help us to become more adept at listening. And so this learning to listen it requires a presence, and we'll talk more about that. It requires us giving of ourselves. It requires us wanting to understand another person. And so again, when we think about listening, I want to go back to our bhakti process, and I want to share some things about our bhakti process, that some of the greatest teachers in our bhakti process that have helped us to listen. So I think everybody knows this great person. She's a person. She's a person. So there's a beautiful pastime that she has taught us. And I believe most of you may know this pastime. You know, she was always kind of disturbed a little bit. She was having some feelings, right? Because they're transcendental feelings. And those feelings of separation from Krishna. So with those feelings, she was in anxiety and disturbance when Krishna would leave, when Krishna left. And yeah, so we know that Srimati Radharani, her appearance is coming up. I would use her as an example for us. So she was so disturbed, you know, she was so disturbed that Krishna had left. And Krishna was also in anxiety. He was also in anxiety that he had left. And he knew, and he was going to come back. And he kept saying that he was going to come back. But Radharani did not really believe that he was going to come back. And so Radharani sent Radharani a verse. Sent Radharani a verse. And that's in the, I believe it's in the Vrajalila. So if you can find that pastime, it's in the CC, and it's in 13-159 of the CC. And so, so Krishna was also becoming a little anxious to return to Vrindavan. And so what he did is he sent Radharani this verse for her to listen to, right? And so this verse, when Radharani listened to this verse, then all her difficulties went away, all her anxiety, all her anguish, because she knew and she understood that Krishna would again return. She understood that by Radharani listening. So there's so many pastimes in our scriptures about listening that we can learn from those personalities right there in our scripture. And I'm going to name a few, and then I want you to think about some of those personalities that might have touched your hearts. Radharani for me is, for all of us, I'm sure, I mean, for everyone that is following the path of bhakti, we all are praying, I am sure, to develop love for Srimati Radharani. There are some devotees that I know in our bhakti path that they pray very, very, very deeply to have this love for Srimati Radharani. And so Radharani can teach us a lot about listening, because she's had to listen a lot in terms of her beloved Krishna. Another personality that I want to look at in terms of listening is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, we remember that Lord Brahma, he's the creator of the universe. And we know that, you know, in terms of creation, he didn't know what to do. He had no idea what to do. We all know this pastime. And it was by hearing that he heard the sound. Again, you hear through the ear, you hear a sound. He heard the sound, and he still wasn't sure, but however, he heard that sound twice, tapa, tapa. So when he heard it, then he had the understanding, the intelligence that he had to listen. And how did he listen? He meditated. He meditated. So by being still, he listened, and in that stillness, he was given the instructions on how to create, right? And so this is how we have the creation of the universe. So again, this importance of developing this muscle of listening, as I said, is integral to our practice of bhakti, and it's integral to developing relationships with Krishna. So the other person that I want to bring to our attention is Lord Chaitanya. And so Lord Chaitanya, in this famous pastime with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, as we know, he was sharing the Vedanta philosophy, right? And of course, Lord Chaitanya is a Vaishnava. So he's listening to this philosophy. And he listened to this philosophy for 7 days. 7 days. And he didn't say what was right, what was wrong. He didn't make a judgment. He didn't make a value analysis. He totally was just listening for 7 days to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then we know what happened after that, after he listened. But however, the point was, Lord Chaitanya also taught us how to listen. He's also teaching us how to listen. And so we have so many personalities. Now I want us to look at some of the women that have influenced our lives in terms of listening. And let's say if we can have a few of the ladies from the scriptures that have influenced our lives. One lady that I'd like to share, she's not heard of, we don't hear about her so much because she was actually from like a different, another time. And she might not be in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but however, I read about her some time ago, and I always just think how great of a personality she is. Her name is Gargi, and Gargi, she actually was famous for listening and also questioning, which are aspects of listening. So Yajnavalkya, who was one of the pundits in that time, and a very great sage, he would speak also on Brahmanism, and she would question him because she wanted to understand about the soul. And she became a great personality for actually establishing understanding about the soul, simply from questioning this great Vaishnava who was very, very learned. And so I'd like to ask you, so I take a little pause and I ask some of you, who are some of the ladies, the Vaishnavis, that have influenced your life in terms of listening, especially Vaishnavis that may be in the scriptures?
So
So
feel free to type in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, and if you would like to share, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranama, Glory Sister Prabhupada. Thank you so much. So nice to see you here. It's such a blessing. The most sacred, and the more we hear them, and there's so many beautiful Kirtanyas have sung it so beautifully. When we hear the sound, like of Kunti Maharani's prayers, even when we read them, you can see her distress, you can see her love for the lordships, and how she, in her prayers itself, you can see the journey of her life. So she is really out there in ladies to inspire from. So in the scripture. So thank you, Mati.
Thank you, Sundari Priya. Thank you so much. Yeah, Kunti Devi. Listening to her, we can listen to her prayers again and again and again and again and again, right? And we can listen in ways that we can try to enter into how she prayed. That's a little harder. That's a little hard, a little more difficult. Yes. Thank you so much. Maybe I'd like to take a few more ladies.
Sure. We have Hari Katha Prabhu. She's saying Suniti listened to Dhruva when he came to her after being insulted by Suniti.
Yes, yes, yes. And she didn't like say, oh, you know, you're just a child, you don't understand anything, just, you know, yeah, just go back and play. You know, or what parents in postmodern times, this time we're living in, postmodern time, what we do as parents now, when we don't listen to our children. She was not that type of a listener, right? She was able to give her son the highest, the most amazing instruction. Yeah. And so, yes, thank you so much. That was Hari Prashad?
Hari Katha.
Hari Katha. Hari Katha. Thank you so much, Hari Katha. Someone else?
We have Shraddhanjali Prabhu.
Shraddhanjali. Whoa, I love names.
And y'all can unmute yourself if you want to speak, or you can definitely type in the chat and I will. So Shraddhanjali Prabhu says Draupadi for listening to the pleas of Ashwatthama.
Yes, yes. She was so amazing, wasn't she? It was incredible. The same Draupadi that could express such anger and disturbance is that same Draupadi, when she listened, could be so forgiving and so caring. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody else?
Jai Shri Radhe Prabhu and someone from ISKCON New York.
Okay.
This ISKCON New York. I don't know who the person is, but she says
Jai Shri Radhe.
Devahuti listened to her son Kapuladev.
That's right. Yeah, Devahuti, the great princess who underwent such austerities and then had such an amazing, amazing son who, yes, who she perfected, you know, amazing. Yeah, how she listened and listened in such a way that we're listening to her today. Yes.
Okay. Then we have Brajarani Prabhu. And
Brajarani.
The prostitute who listened to Shri Haridas Thakur.
Yeah, tell me. Haribol. Yes, yes. And she listened. It took a few days of listening. Took a few days. Like, I think the first day she was just hearing. Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, all right. I'll come back. She's just hearing. But then it penetrated her heart. She started listening. She started really listening. So listening needs to penetrate into our hearts. Yes.
Okay. Then we have Jai Devaki Prabhu. And she says, Queen Rukmini listened to the pastimes of Krishna. And that's from Devaki Priti.
Devaki Priti.
That's how she became attracted to Krishna.
Yes. So attracted that I think she wrote Krishna a letter, isn't it? So
Yes.
yeah, she wrote Krishna a letter. She was just so attracted. Can you imagine? Like you know, just imagine. Yeah. Just by listening.
We have Shamala Kishori Prabhu. She wants to say something. I've unmuted you, Shamala Kishori Prabhu. Please.
Vrajalila Prabhu. I was thinking about Yamuna Devi and how she, as more of a contemporary person in our lives, was very caring and took time to listen to devotees and especially women and the struggles that they had.
Thank you so much for that. It was a listening of Jamuna that I had in Mayapur. It was in listening to her with something very basic and very simple. She told me once, not once, I mean, just when she was on the planet, we had the great fortune of spending some time with her. And some activity happened and I was a little curious about it. And one of the aspects of we say about listening is to ask questions. So I asked Yamuna Devi why she had responded in the way that she did to another person. I was a little confused by the way she responded and a little curious. And I asked her that question, and her reply is a reply that guides my life today, because it penetrated my heart, her answer. She said, in our ISKCON society, there's so many people that are, maybe I will wait to share this. Yeah. I think I will just wait because I'm listening. I will just wait and share what she shared with me. I'll leave you all a little bit in suspense while I listen, because I will share a little bit about her a little later. But yes, Jamuna, my husband tells me the story about Jamuna all the time, how Prabhupada, he told different devotees about, he was teaching them some tune, how to play. And the devotees, they didn't get the tune. They were chanting, I believe, the story, the melody, and they couldn't get the tune. And when he got to Jamuna got the tune. Because she listened, she heard, she could hear. There's something like that. This pastime goes like that with Srila Prabhupada and Jamuna. Well, the point is Jamuna always really had this connection with Srila Prabhupada, where everything that Srila Prabhupada shared with her, she made it have some meaning in her life. And that is the purport of listening, is that we connect so deeply with another person that we can absolutely accept and understand what it is that they're wanting to share. So I'm going to move on a little bit. We'll come back to that, Jamuna Shamala.
We have just one more person who's raised
Okay.
their hand. If you want to take
Okay.
Leela Prabhu, I have unmuted you. Please, you can. She wanted to share something. Leela Prabhu.
Thank you. I wanted to share this example of mutual listening between Quincy and Pandu, where she had an argument for him about why they would not have any more children with the demigods, and he actually listened to her. She gave her argument and said, this is why we shouldn't do this. And he heard and he listened. So she had respect for him and he had respect for her and heard her, and they ended up not having any more children with the demigods. So that mutual listening has always been very beautiful.
Leela, we couldn't hear you so well. Are you calling from New Vrindavan on your cell phone?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay. I knew you were thinking of going there. I couldn't hear. Could you hear Govinda? Maybe you could repeat for me, Govinda, if you heard.
So I heard bits and pieces, but Leela Prabhu, you can correct me if I'm. So she was talking about mutual understanding of someone having children. I missed a few words here and there. Leela Prabhu?
Yeah, the connection.
Wasn't she talking about the mother of the of Arjuna, Yudhisthira, the Pandavas? Wasn't she talking about the Pandavas?
I couldn't hear.
We just couldn't hear so much. We couldn't hear. So
I can share what she said. What I heard is that Kunti and Pandu, they were discussing whether they should have more children. And Pandu also listened to Kunti Devi's request not to, or whatever. She was saying it's mutual listening on both sides.
Yes, it is. It's definitely mutual listening on both sides, which is a nice segue to what we want to go to now. So we're going to take you into our home, and we're going to share with you what husbands and wives work on in terms of listening. Because, I can do a regular, this is how we listen, this is how we don't listen, However, I always find that it's always more connecting when we are able to hear or see if things really work. And in being transparent, I want to share with you that listening is definitely a part of bhakti that I am working on, as well as my husband. We are both working on developing skills of listening that can nourish our souls, so that we can become better servants of each other and better servants of the devotees in Krishna. Now, sometimes it is a challenge. So we are going to bring you into our world for a little bit. Okay, so we're going to now share with you, we're going to do a couple of role plays about what not to do when we want to listen to another person. So I am inviting my dear husband, Ekavira Das, into our Sangha, if that's okay with all the ladies. Yeah, just for a bit, just for a little while.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm speaking on behalf of all the Vaishnavis, and I hope that's okay with everyone. But,
okay. So some of the ways that we kind of listen, we think we're listening, and we're not really listening. Oftentimes we are pretending we're listening, we're not listening. And there's labels. So when I share this, I want us to remember that there is all these tools and techniques for listening have only developed since the industrial age, right? So most of them have come through the modern age and now through the postmodern age, where technology has become so strong and so potent. Technology is like directing our lives. So now what we have found in this age is that it's important to teach people how to listen, because otherwise we become so distracted by technology that we don't take time. We don't spend time with each other listening anymore. We don't really listen to people anymore. We listen to, to the computer. We somehow are eliminating that personal connection with another person from our lives. Except, of course, in our homes where we have our children and our husbands, or maybe our jobs, or we have workers, we have, and somehow COVID has even changed some of that, right? We don't all go to work anymore. So we will demonstrate for you some of the ways that people think they're listening and they're not. My dear husband, he disappeared.
not listening.
Okay, he said it's because he wasn't listening. Okay, so I want to introduce you. If you can come, please. This is Ekavira Prabhu, Ekavira Das, and in our household, we realize and we understand totally that we are lacking in these aspects of listening. But first, and this first one is me. The first one is me, and so we came up with some role plays. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ekavira Prabhu, for joining us.
Yes.
We're very, very grateful.
Thank you. I'm sorry
Yeah.
I'm not dressed appropriately. I apologize, but Vrajalila, sorry, wouldn't fit.
You look perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So in our household, I am what is called the faker listener. Faker, right? So the faker listener, right, is the listener that they pretend to be listening. Usually they're thinking of something else. Usually they're doing something else. Now I must say, and I think Ekavira Prabhu can agree with me, that I've become a lot better. We've been married for 30 years, and in 30 years you learn a few things. And one of the things that has helped me in learning to become a better listener in this aspect of listening is we used to have this challenge a lot that he would say to me, "You're not listening." And I'll be like, "Why is he thinking I'm not listening? I'm listening, like I'm listening. I might be doing something else, but I'm listening. And so it just kept on being like a part in our life, in our household life that was uncomfortable. And I didn't like the discomfort, neither did he. So we thought we had to make a choice. We had to make a change, right? Choices means making changes. So what happened is one day, I decided to ask him, what is it that's going to make you think that I'm listening to you? And he said, well, I really need you to pay attention to me when I'm listening, when I'm speaking to you. I need you to pay attention. I was like, pay attention? Okay, what does that mean, really? And so he says, just that, like you're present to what I'm saying and you're not, doing other things. So I started practicing. It was a practice, actually. So I started when he would speak to me, I would put everything down, anything that I would be doing, I would put it down, and I would just sit and give my whole being, to him. And then I was still in my head thinking of all these things that I still was thinking of doing. So that took a while to work on, but just to stop things and give my full presence, that helped a lot. It helped a lot. And gradually I also started learning how to become more empty and become more of a listener. So the first one is a fake listener. So
and actually we both are fake listeners. Working on it.
So we're working on this. We're working on it. Okay, because we do want to become soul listeners, listening from the soul. Okay, so let's go, Ekavir.
Okay, and these would be just simple scenarios.
So Ekavir wrote our scripts. So I'm anxious to see what he wrote. Okay, go ahead. On the fake listener. Fake listener.
Vrajalila, my computer isn't working.
Your computer isn't working. Yeah? Yeah.
I mean, it's really difficult for me to do my workout. Just can't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so your computer isn't working.
Yes, really, really frustrating right now. I just can't.
Really? Ekavira, I was thinking that the garbage bag in the kitchen is really full and it's starting to smell. Can you please take it out?
You didn't hear a word I said, did
you? What? I'm sorry. What did you say? No, I'm serious. What did you say? No, I'm like super serious. What did you say? So I have this really bad. Yeah, I am like a fake listener, especially in my home. I'm not a fake listener with the people I counsel or anything like that for some reason, but with my husband, I'm like a fake listener. Okay, the next kind of listener is that okay, we'll go to you. You are okay, Ekavira is like the self-conscious listener. So I'll go through now the two types of listeners. Somehow we're not, these type of listener styles don't have this. The dependent listener. Dependent listeners, they want to please the people. They want to please the people they're listening to. So they just pretend like they're listening. They're not really listening, but they have this thing to please. And so they just keep agreeing. You ever seen somebody that's speaking and somebody just keep agreeing with them, just agreeing? And, and then it's like sometimes even somebody that's a second listener might think, why are they just agreeing with that, Because they have this tendency to just want to please another person. And so they don't really think, they don't really utilize, their thinking muscle. And they have that propensity to just want to please. So we don't have that. We don't have that so much. Maybe we do, but it's probably very unconscious. However, it's really unconscious. And then the interpreter, we also don't have this. We have worked on this in early parts of our marriage, where we never allow the other to finish, right? To finish what they're saying. You've seen families like that. One person starts speaking and the next one interrupts to say something. Because that person, they're afraid that they may be afraid that they're gonna forget what they want to say, or they really don't so much, they're not so much connected to another person's feelings. They're not really aware of another person's feelings. And they may also have something that they think is so important, right? They're thinking about themselves, right? Something I'm saying is important. So we also don't have that. We don't interrupt each other. We wait until each one of us is finished with what we're saying, and then we say what we need to say. We somehow, by Krishna's and Guru's grace and the devotee grace, we've learned not to do that. But this one we do have. I don't have this as much as he does. He is the self-conscious listener. The self-conscious listener is a person that's like, they're concerned about their own status, right? So they're always trying to impress somebody that they know something. And so they're not really listening for understanding. They're just listening in a way that they can frame what the person is saying in order for them to say something that will let that person know, oh, they really know what they're talking about. So it totally minimizes another person and what they're, the speaker. It minimizes the speaker. And so this type of a listener, my husband does this, and it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. So I might be sharing something that for me is like I don't really know so much about politics because I'm not interested in that so much. And so sometimes I might hear something about politics and I might share it with him. Then he gives me a whole litany of things about politics that I'm like, okay, he knows so much more about that. And then whatever I wanted to say or whatever I shared was so unimportant. It became so small, So we're going to demonstrate that for you. Okay, unconscious. I heard in the news that COVID will get worse in the fall.
Keep listening to the news, and it's really just the status quo is putting out this information in order to sell some unproven vaccine in the fall, just to make more money.
Ooh. I was expressing some concern about the second wave of this virus, and you're talking to me about a theory of what's all this other stuff. I don't care about all that stuff.
Well, it's important. You should care about it. And I think you should know it. That's the reason why I'm just expressing that to you, so you won't be so afraid.
Well, are you saying this virus is not real? You're saying it's imaginary?
No, it's real.
I mean, don't you think I should be concerned with how we can contract it, how we can get affected by it?
Maybe,
Do you realize that I'm a risk category in this whole virus thing? Do you realize, if you go out and you interact with people, it could affect me?
Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he wants to let me know all kinds of things that I have no interest in, right? And yeah, he just wants me to to learn things. And I usually, if it's something that I'm not interested in, then it's difficult for us to listen to each other. It would be difficult for me to listen to him, even though what he's saying may be really true, it may be really correct. However, I might not listen because he's not hearing what I'm saying. So this is something that we practice because he's also like an intellectual listener, and I'm more of a factual listener. Just tell me the facts of things. So that's a style. That's a listening style that we're really working on. We're praying. We're praying, and we apply the tools to each other. Like you saw, we just applied the tools. I applied speaking more about my personal concerns about it, as opposed to getting on his case because he's saying what he's saying. I shared how it's impacting me, and then he heard that, and then he was able to shift from what he was saying. Okay, the intellectual listener. So they tend to only to the words of the other people, and they don't really hear nonverbal cues. You know, like sometimes, you know, you can be talking to someone and they just keep talking and talking and talking, and they don't realize that you need to get some water, or you might just need to go to the bathroom, or you might need to just take a break, you know, and that person, because that person, you know, sometimes when you're listening to that person as a listener, you may get, as an intellectual listener, you may listen to that person because the words that they use, you know, is mesmerizing. Sometimes we use words that just attract people, and people just love to hear how some people speak, just the words they use. So there's that type of a listener. And then the downside of that is an intellectual listener also may not be able to understand, you know, nonverbal cues. They may not be able to understand body language. I mean, hard for them because they're speaking from the head, usually. And then this last one, which I believe many of us have this, especially in our devotee community, unfortunately. This type of listening predominates for whatever the reasons are. The judge and jury listener. So the judge and jury listener is that these kind of listeners, they become overly involved in the judgment or the ideas. They just like, you know, whatever somebody else says, they have some judgment for it. They in their head, they're you know, they're making up, they're putting people in, they usually put people in boxes, and in those boxes they already have some ideas of, you know, what, some judgment about the person. They have expectations about the person. They, you know, they have assumptions. And so we have that in our relationship. So we're going to do, this is our last role play. Okay. So this is the judge and jury person. Okay, this is a famous one for us. So my husband is an outdoor person. Ekavira is an outdoor person. He loves to be outdoors. And I am more of an indoor person. And so this is a conversation we have a lot. So where have you been all day?
What do you mean all day? I left at 7 and it's 4, 5 o'clock.
That's practically all day. That's since, you know, morning program, sadhana time, you've been gone since then. Like, where have you been?
Well, I mean, I was at the farm, and I was working on a car, and I needed the car part, and then I went to the auto parts store, the welder, the post office, and then I went back to the farm.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean, yeah, right?
Well, I mean, you know, you always have some excuse for where you've been. The point is you haven't been here. You've been somewhere else. You just like to just move around. You just like to, you know, get out. I mean, I don't get it. There's so many things we can do in the house. Why can't you just, you know, be still? Just be quiet and be still. Become Om Shanti.
Well, I mean, that's good for you, but I need to get out sometime.
Okay, well, what are we going to do about this? I have all these judgments about you being out, and I have all these assumptions about you, what you know, go, even though you're at the farm and I know you're doing all this work and stuff, to me, you could just be in the house.
I don't know. Maybe we can talk about it later.
Okay, we're going to talk about it later. Okay, so
I
you
have to go back to the farm.
So he's going. So yeah, we work on this, and if I say to him, well, actually, I really want to talk about this now, then he would need to kind of see, okay, can we talk about this now or what, you know? So it's something we are aware, and we constantly dialogue, and now we put it out to people so that people can see, like, hey, we're normal. We're endeavoring to be exemplary in bhakti. At the same time, we're working on some of these beautiful, very beautiful tools that are important in developing close relationships, close connected relationships, where we understand each other. At least we're trying to understand each other. And last week, I listened to some of the presentations that were given before, and I saw that Uttama and Partha Prabhu's, they were talking about being compassionate. And I understood that some of that was about listening. And so definitely compassion, empathy. Empathy is so important. These are some of the tools that I teach in terms of listening, developing listening skills, is how to become an empathic listener or empathetic listener. Also, how to listen for under the iceberg, so to speak, what's going on underneath what the person is saying. So there's different tools that we can apply in terms of developing listening skills. And we're going to do some of that. I'm going to have you do this work because we're going to go into the breakout rooms. So before we go there, I just like to pause for a minute and ask if anyone has anything to share at this time, because now I'm going to shift and take us into another realm of listening. So if there's any questions, I see our time. Can I see the clock, please? It's now. Okay, so I'm watching our time. I want to be sure that we're ended, but enough time so that we can, if there's any questions. Right now, I'm just asking if there's anything you would like to share, any thoughts that are coming up for you. Not that one. Okay.
Feel free to unmute and speak or type, whatever way you feel comfortable. Okay.
Okay, no one has anything to share?
Well, some of them shared a few things. They said the role play was just lovely. And they're fun. We really loved the role plays. The role play was very helpful. Too good. Very enlightening. All of these thoughts are pouring in.
Okay,
So
we're going into. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm very deeply appreciative. Your kind words thank you. My husband just brought us something to drink. Your kind words, they encourage me in a very deep way to want to continue to share things that, have been a part of my experience. And so because I'm learning about listening, at first I was thinking, do I be vulnerable in this way? And then I thought, well, what do I, why not? Why not? So you're encouraging me, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. We're going to move to another area of listening. And so we're going to listen to this. And then after we listen to this, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I'm going to give you something that you will work with. So that's going to be the last part of our program, and then we'll open for questions and answers. So yeah, we're going to play this for you. A few minutes. Okay, I got it.
Vrajalila Prabhu, is there any sound? Because we can't hear anything.
Can't hear the sound.
You know what you need to do? You need to stop the screen share.
Uh-huh.
And share again. And when you're ready to share, you'll see 2 check boxes at the bottom. That's a share for video clip or use the computer sound.
Okay, I have my person that's helping me here because I'm using her computer, so she's working with you what you're doing. It's not my computer.
All right.
Okay,
Now,
stop sharing.
okay, so hit the button at the bottom that says share screen.
Yeah, I see that.
And you'll see 2 check boxes at the bottom, which says use computer sound or optimize for video clip.
Is that under advanced sharing options?
No. Once you click the screen that you want to share, you hit that green button that you see at the bottom, and then just right there, you'll see different screens that you have opened up on your computer.
Right, I see that. Mm-hmm.
And you see 2 little check boxes.
Right, I see that.
Yeah, just check them, and then hit share.
Okay, so both of them.
Yes, so it will use your computer sound and we'll be able to hear.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Je anilo premadana koruna rachu.
Maharaj, in the hour of crisis, how we are going to, preach the people?
Okay, sometimes we need to take vacation, and in this vacation, what you can do is chant and read, and also you can preach. The people that you know, why don't you phone them and find out how they are doing? And this is the time they will listen more attentively.
Prabhupada didn't encourage us to go to Radhakund and live there. Prabhupada didn't encourage us to live in Vrindavan. Prabhupada wanted us to go to Vrindavan. But Prabhupada wanted us to go, stay wherever we are. And preach Krishna consciousness. That's the most important thing.
So, the thing is, in whichever condition you are in, remain Krishna conscious. And try to preach, even if you don't have mobile phone or telephone to preach to, then at least in your mind, keep on praying to Krishna, Krishna about their names. Tell Krishna, such and such person, you please take care of him. Such and such person, please take care of him. In this way, you can pray to Krishna about those people that you got to know. And that is also preaching.
Mahaprabhu wanted Krishna consciousness movement to spread. Now if everybody lives in Mathura and Radhakund and Vrindavan and Varsana, then what will happen to this world? Who will preach Krishna consciousness? Therefore, for the sake of Mahaprabhu's pleasure, we don't care for our spiritual advancement. And like Vasudev Datta, let me take all the sinful reactions of everybody and let me go to hell. But let everybody get heaven. That is the attitude of an advanced devotee. And that is the mood that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to accept.
First thing, as a devotee, don't worry about it. But at the same time, take precaution. Okay, this happens, coronavirus may take place. Whether it's coronavirus or influenza or typhoid or whatever it is, you try to prevent. There is a saying, prevention is better than cure. Cure comes after you got the disease. So better to take precautions so that you don't get the disease. Why should you unnecessarily invite disease? Take precaution. Wash your hands with soap. For 20 seconds you rub the thing. And avoid contact with people. Don't come in close contact with people, those who may have. Don't go into a crowded situation.
We are prepared to go anywhere. That's why we are prepared to go to a place called America, which is not different from hell. But we dare to go there. Everybody is saying, Maharaj, why are you going there? Why are you going there? I know that place is hellish, but we have to go there to preach. And other boys are there, other devotees are there, they are preaching. And if I stay in Ujjain, because there is some problems, coronavirus, then will that be appropriate? As their leader, I am hiding. And they are fighting the battle in the forefront. No. As a leader, I should be there with them. That's where I'm going.
If you're living in an old house, and somebody comes, the city authority comes to you and tells you that this house may fall apart anytime. So vacate the house, and a beautiful palace has been made for you. So move in there. What will you do? Will you say, no, 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 I want to stay here? And that is what's happening to the people in this world. No, 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 I want to stay in this world, in this body. Are Baba, a new body is waiting for you. So why be attached to that? So why be afraid of death? Therefore, don't be, when death will come, it will come. Whether through mosquito bite or coronavirus. And the final thing is, depend upon Krishna. Marobi rakhobi jo ichha to hai. Marobi rakhobi jo ichha to hai. And especially the spiritualists, they should not worry about death.
Thank you very much.
Stop sharing when I get back into the screen. Okay, so now we'd like to use the breakout rooms. How many devotees are on the call?
We have 35 right now.
Okay, so maybe if we can we can put 4 in each, a group of 4 in a breakout room. And we will work on listening to that tape. And what I will do is put on the screen Srila Prabhupada's 3rd purpose for ISKCON. And what I would like for the devotees to do in the breakout room is to listen to the 3rd purpose and to share with each other. And I'll share with some points on listening, share with each other what we can do as the leaders of the ISKCON society in women's bodies with the 3rd purpose of ISKCON.
So did you want 6 devotees in a room? Is that what you said?
Yeah, six is good. I mean, okay, I'm sorry. I'm just wanting that everyone gets a chance and opportunity to share. So I think 4, is that okay? We have enough rooms, yeah? To put 4?
Yeah.
That would be like what? 4 8s, 32, 4 9s, but 6, maybe 6 will probably make it easier. Whichever one works. You do this all the time.
Yeah, well, we can open
I just want that everybody gets a chance for them to talk, to share.
Sure. So your screen sharing will not be visible.
Yes, I get that. Absolutely. Now I want to, okay, so I want to give you what it is that they will be sharing about. And I have that on the screen also. I have that on my PowerPoint. So can I put that for you to see from the PowerPoint?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mother Vrajalila.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Can you please say again what you want us to be listening for?
Yes. Can you see this on the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in your groups, what I want you to read this purpose of ISKCON. This is the 3rd purpose of ISKCON. Prabhupada gave us 7 purposes for ISKCON. This is the 3rd purpose. Once you read this, having listened to one of Srila Prabhupada's representatives, and also you being a representative of Srila Prabhupada, how do you propose that we come up, what would your proposal be for us to do in order to bring this purpose to life. Not that it's not alive already. How do we give it more life? The ladies of the Hare Krishna movement, they will give this purpose life, the Vaishnavis. And and some of the tools that I will give to you for listening, I will also put on the screen. So is everybody clear on that?
So I have also put the third purpose in the chat. I can
Okay.
ask that as well, so you'll be able to see it.
Okay. Also, can I also give you some tools to put in the chat?
Sure.
Okay. So ask good questions, or ask questions that can really assist to nourish the soul. Ask questions. Be curious. Wait to speak. Stay focused. Don't fill in holes. So if somebody is still and quiet, be present with that quietness and that stillness. It's okay. Be empathetic. Listen for feelings. And listen for the person's values. So if we are the healers of our ISKCON society and we have this third purpose as listeners, what do we have to offer? It may be just listening to each other at this time, listening to what we're all feeling and thinking.
And how long do you want these rooms? How long do you want them to be?
Yeah, we want to end, I will say 5, 10, 15, between 15, the max 20 minutes, but let's say 15 for now, 15 minutes.
Okay.
So that everybody can have a chance to share.
All right. 15 minutes. Perfect. So should I move all the Vaishnavis in their rooms now?
Please, 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 Governor, please. Thank you. Please put them in their rooms.
All right, you all have been invited to join your rooms. Welcome back.
Goranga!
Goranga! Krishna Kumari! Krishna Kumari! Haribo! Tiffany! Hari Hari!
Right.
Wow!
Everyone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Sita, Suniti, Isha. Wow. So if anyone would like to share what that was like for them in the breakout room, please let us come nearer to each other and nearer to Krishna. I can start. I was in a breakup room with a dear friend, Mahamaya. She's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And Hari and Hari Bhakta? Yes, Harikatha. Yes, her baby sweet. Harikatha. So we were in this breakout room together, and so we became nearer to each other by sharing our hearts in terms of things that are going on in our lives, and we could understand that some things we're thinking that we're not doing anything, but however, we're doing so much. Like I learned from Mahamaya, so much about the deities in Alachua, and so much about the services that she's doing right now, that although she may not think it's so valuable, but however, me hearing about that was just, so enlivening to hear. And then I heard from Harikatha about a conversation, a dialogue that she had with another devotee, and how that left her having some feelings, and she's now processing what those feelings might have been in that experience with that devotee. She was aware of something she could have done differently, and yet she's processing her feelings because she hadn't quite she didn't yet understand like what her feelings were. She was thinking about the other person, but not her feelings. And so in our conversation, we were able to, like help her to go to her feelings, what's going on for her. And so for me, I felt so excited just being in this association, hearing from these devotees that I hadn't heard from and coming nearer to them. So in terms of the purpose of ISKCON, that purpose is to bring the members of society together with each other, bring us nearer with each other, to really communicate with each other, to listen to each other for the deeper things that's going on with us, and to bring them nearer to Krishna. And so we know that's the first part. So we address that first part of this principle. Thank you very much. So now if some others can please share.
Please feel free to unmute and share.
And then after this, we can go into any questions.
Okay, Mother Vrajalila, you've muted yourself.
Sorry. I say if you don't have anything to share, we can go into the questions. If you have any questions or anything at all you want to share, even if it's not directly related, we can do that until 5 o'clock.
I'll share about our group. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Dharma, I love you so much.
Oh my God, I've been wanting to say that to you, but I've had a muted mic this whole time, and I haven't been able to. I had a really nice group, but I was not a very good listener, I'm afraid, in our group, and I wanted to share that. We had 3 of us, Shraddhanjali and Dr. Treya and myself, and I did not know Dr. Treya, so we spent a little time hearing, from her in the beginning, and she spoke a little bit about what she was feeling. And then it was quiet. And so I said, well, I've been actually contemplating this very point, and I actually wrote down a few things just the other day, and I have my list. And Shraddhanjali was, yeah, share the list, but I shouldn't have done that because that just meant that I was doing a narrative instead of listening. Yeah, so yeah, I still have my list, but yeah. And I also wanted to say, myself personally, I just wanted to share, Vrajalila, that I right away related to this topic of listening. We know that when we chant Hare Krishna that we're supposed to listen. We hear that in the Shastras, the first process is listening, but we don't always apply that to each other. And the fact that you tied this in the way you did about understanding each other, hearing from each other, and building, those relationships in our movement, which is so central, and we could talk about that forever, how important that is. It's just very refreshing, and it's very nice to come back into an environment like this and be hearing in these ways. And I'm very appreciative.
Thank you. I want to share something with you, Sudharma, that for years with Sudharma Prabhu, I was an intellectual listener of hers because she speaks so fluently. She uses English language in such a way that it's like poetry. And I remember I would just be like amazed at how she could use words, And I would always think, Krishna, one day I'd like to speak Krishna consciousness like her. And so I was a intellectual listener with you for a long time.
Now it's my turn to be your intellectual listener. And since I'm on dialysis, I have literally less blood in my brain. And it makes it more difficult for me to enunciate and to speak as smoothly as I used to like to be able to do. So now it's my turn.
Well, now I listen to you from the heart because you have so much love. I go beyond your words.
Thank you for that. But we need to let other people speak, yes. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be in your company. You have no idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Haribol.
We're so grateful to get this glimpse of this wonderful exchange that you have. Thank you so much.
We go back a long time.
Can you hear me?
Yes. That's right.
Yes. Oh, Sudharma, it was wonderful. I loved it. I started writing down some of the things that you said. And then we had just a very short time for a discussion, which I wanted to get more of your heart thoughts about it. And I really appreciate everything that you said. And I'm glad you had those things written down. It's very meaningful. Thank you. Thank you.
That's kind of you. Thank you.
It's just the truth. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Haribol. Anyone else? It sounded like that group was able to get nearer to each other. Sudharma, now I'm a little curious about all the things that you shared.
Me too.
I love Shraddhanjali. I was so happy to see her in my group. Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. Shraddhanjali. Hari Hari. Okay. Hey, look at this, Achyuta.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So I wanted to share from my group. Because I'm not such a good listener, I had to develop my note-taking skills. So it helps me to listen better. So I'm fortunate to be in the group with the esteemed Mother Ananda Vrindavan Devi Dasi, Temple President at Potomac, and also Mother Shanti from the Vancouver Yatra. We had another devotee in our group, but she was engaged in devotional service. So she could not join us to speak, but she was just listening. So that was wonderful. So we were sharing things that we've learned in our devotional service about what skills and techniques we could use to help foster this mood of bringing, as leaders, as in the movement, to bring the purpose to life. So we were sharing about Ananda Vrindavan was saying, sharing the principle, one of the community building principles that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would teach about treating everyone as the person we love the most. And also she was sharing that we need to be able to see one another as more than just this current body or mind. And that, and I share too in another principle that my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, would share with us amongst those community principles, that in any conflict situation, we have to be able to see ourselves at fault first. So we can actually, because if we just blame the other person, even if they are at fault, we will miss the opportunity to actually resolve the conflict. It would just escalate. So in our actual personal dealings with one another, trying to connect more from the heart, you know, it has to start with us, the relationships with one another. And I was sharing how sometimes we have to connect with devotees because we are thrown into situations. They aren't necessarily people we would have chosen to associate with, but because of the nature of our, you know, movement, or, you know, where we are in a geographical location, or some yatra we may be a part of, we become connected, but it's not necessarily someone we would have chosen to connect with. But because we are, sometimes we have conflicts, and sometimes they can be, you know, more challenging than ones we may have with people who aren't in Krishna consciousness. So utilizing some of these tools, another one that Bhakti True Maharaj shared was always having this mood of cooperation. You know, he would share that Srila Prabhupada always wanted us to have that mood of cooperation with one another despite our conflicts, and try to figure it out, how to get along well with one another. And then another one that Mother Shanti was sharing was to be a good listener. She really liked this, the techniques that you were sharing, Vrajalila, in this class. And she was sharing how important it is to bring yourself to newcomers, when you're meeting newcomers that come to Krishna consciousness, to bring yourself to their level and not think that you're superior, or take a humble position, and to give Krishna consciousness in a subtle manner to newcomers, not bombard them. So those are just a few things we discussed.
Wow, that's quite a bit. Thank you so much. Actually, I was thinking how that so much, it speaks to the entire third purpose of Srila Prabhupada. However, to the last part of that purpose, where Prabhupada says to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large, that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead. So if we are to put those principles into our daily lives, we will be impacting not just ourselves and others, but humanity, however, humanity at large. So that is so beautiful. Thank you. And we, the Vaishnavis of the ISKCON organization, this is our call to do this, to make this happen. And just by us connecting with each other is already making it happen. This Vaishnavi ministry is just so beautiful. Thank you, Achyuta Devi. Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice seeing you, my love.
Always a pleasure seeing you, Mata.
Hari Hari. Anyone else? Govinda Priya? And Govinda Priya, you got the time, so let us know, please.
Well, more sharing. We have 10 more minutes. We have lifetimes, but for now we have 10 minutes. Anybody else has anything to share?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I'll be brave and try and share.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. I've never taken part in anything like that on a Zoom class before, and I really enjoyed it. I had a wonderful partner, Marguerite, and we went down a practical route. We were speaking of how we found this very useful, women coming together on the phone or on a Zoom class. And Marguerite came up with this wonderful idea of storytelling, so that each person, we could all get together and we could discuss our views on Krishna, but each person has a section where they talk, so everyone else has to listen, and there's rules and guidelines like there are in here, no judgment, no interruptions. And I found it very useful as well, because I can be a chatterbox. I'm excitable, and especially when it comes to talking about Krishna. And this has been very useful to remind me that I need to stop and listen to the other person. And And this is, yeah, so we had the discussion about the more practical route that we could go down to develop this third thing for Prabhupada. And it was very enjoyable. So thank you to my partner, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Margaret, sounds like that storytelling is just so beautiful. That's something that I always think I would, there are devotees that are just so expert in sharing stories. And it's so beautiful when you hear from them because they know what to highlight and how to get you really excited. So yes, thank you. That's something I think that I would like to be a part of, more storytelling. And thank you for—
Hello, everybody. I'm Manmohini, and I love stories. I believe in stories. I've been moved by the power of stories, telling them and hearing them. And in my workplace and in my community, I've done a lot of spiritual memoir writing workshops with people from all walks of life, all paths, all age spans, and it's just a really cool way to develop listening skills. And I think when people are heard, you give them space and they're heard, they feel healed. And we listen to their stories, and there's just such a bond that grows when people share their vulnerable journeys, whatever their spiritual path is. So I've just been mesmerized by how powerful that is as a way of teaching listening.
Thank you so much. And as a learner of listening, please share. Please let us know how we can connect. I would love to hear more about that. Marguerite, thank you so much. Dad, thanks so much for the sharing. Anyone else would like to share?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Haribol, Hare Krishna, Haribol.
I truly enjoyed what you had to say about listening. I'm not a good listener, especially with the families. Yeah, I think my son is a bit of an intellectual speaker, but I could improve on that. Yeah, and let him finish what he has to say a lot of times. Yeah, with you and your husband doing a little bit of demo was really nice. So I'd like to really thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. I have found that in the stillness, we can sometimes hear the God in the other person, or we can hear Krishna coming through the other person in the stillness, or even coming through ourselves. I remember one time I had this conversation with His Holiness Radhanath Swami. I was a little bit concerned about something, and I went to him to ask him for instructions. And he said to me, he said, "What is your intuition telling you?" And I was like, my intuition? I thought it was funny because I was like, I didn't think to just be still and listen. And so I've learned that since. Just be still and listen. It's so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, we had the honor to host Radhanath Swami at our humble home.
Yes.
He was totally enlightening.
Thank you. I think we have one more person, yes?
Yes, I think
Hare
so.
Krishna Mataji. So in our group, we had Suniti Mataji and Gail Mataji. They didn't have good connection, but Suniti Mataji actually couldn't use the microphone. So I was just the speaker and the listener, and I don't know, I was so confused by the whole thing. But Suniti Mataji, I need to really glorify her. Looking at the screen, we may judge her that she's walking away and she's doing something or constantly, but actually right now she's taking care of her father who's really not well. She is diligent in typing all her thoughts, and really it in my heart to put myself in her situation that she's taking care of a son and a father, and really like in the previous session when Holy Night Swami Maharaj had said, build friendship first before you can judge others or be there to help them. Unless we bring that connection to a reality of friendship level and understand that Mataji is really, you know, what her situation is, and she did the same for me. She understood that, you know, we were having a hard time connecting with other Matajis and how we are going to discuss this, but somehow we connected, and I hope to someday meet Suniti Mataji and hug her really tight and say, you as a you're taking 2 generations and you did it. And I'm so proud of her, and I'm so proud of all the Vaishnavis that are inspiring me to be a better human being, a better devotee. Thank you.
Haribol, yay! Bringing each other closer together. Nearer to Krishna. Thank you. So we have 2 minutes. Anyone like to, Govinda Priya, anything you'd like to share in these 2 minutes?
I just want to thank everybody for being here. This is what makes this Sangha so special, when you participate and, you know, share and develop these friendships. And that's what the ministry is all about. Thank you so much, Sudharma Prabhu. Sudharma Prabhu is working on a wonderful project, and we have assigned Tiffany to work with Sudharma Prabhu. There's going to be more coming from the Vaishnavi ministry. There's going to be so much more. So we seek your blessings, we seek your support, and we seek your active participation so that we can together, you know, make this really historic, revolutionary presence for the Vaishnavis within our society and contribute positively to the movement of Srila Prabhupada. I want to thank you all for being here. Each and every one of you has been such an inspiration, because if it wasn't for you, there was probably going to be no Sangha. So continue to join us. We will, on the 27th, is that the next Sangha we have? Have Rukmini Prabhu and Anuttama Prabhu going to be joining us. And they're going to be talking more about how to fight. So now that you're an effective listener, you're going to learn how to fight in the right way. You can have differences and dealing with differences. And it's going to be another wonderful Sangha. So we're hoping you can join again and give us your feedback. Feedback forms. Please share your honest feedback. That really helps us improve these programs better. Thank you so much, Mother Vrajalila and Ekavira Prabhu. We're so grateful that you have taken this time to share your wisdom, your, oh, I can't see you. And it's nice if I can see you here. I see you now. I'm going to pin your video so all of us can see you. Thank you so much, Mother Vrajalila. Very, very grateful. Please keep coming back. And please extend our appreciation and gratitude to Ekavira Prabhu for
Thank you, and thank you to the rest of the team. Thank you so much, and give my love so much to everyone. And the Hari Kata, if you can please give her my WhatsApp number, I would really appreciate it. So that
Sure.
she's asking me a question, and I'd like to follow up on the question.
Absolutely.
Yes, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Vrajalila, is that the best way for any of us to contact you on WhatsApp?
I tend to answer that faster than I do other things, yes. My WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number, yeah.
So you can email the Vaishnavi ministry, or I know Harikatha one, and who else? You can just send me a private message and I'll share.
I'd love to be in contact with Sudharma.
Me too. I would love to be in contact with her. I'm not that good on WhatsApp, but I am on it. So.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that you all are connected.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jayadavaki. Pretty. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Jai Prabhupada!
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Hari. I did not forget that what Jamuna said. I will come back with that another time. This was just not the time.
Yeah.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Thank you, Mata.
Hari Hari.
Thank you,
Govinda
Govinda
Priya.
Thank you so much.
Panchakalpadeviyascha Kripasindhuviyascha Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo
Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.